Recording.
Oh, thank you. Interior apartment lobby day. Henry, 12, enters the building, feet light yet heavy at the same time, his back hunching at the weight of his backpack and his hands are clutching the straps. He walks past the reception desk and turns to walk down the hallway, entering an area off the lobby, the mail room. Henry reaches into his pocket, pulls out a single key, and opens the mailbox. He pulls out a letter.
Hold on, can you pull this closer? You're blocking his face a little. Like, closer to you. Yeah.
Interior kitchen day. We'll cut that up in post. Interior kitchen day. Helena, 29, is slightly humming a tune in her pristine kitchen. Her hair is tied back to a clean, neat ponytail, held together by a scrunchie matching her dress, and her apron is tied off with a pretty bow, resting gently at her lower back. She's cutting vegetables, preparing dinner for her family. Behind her, she can hear Henry kicking his shoes off, breathing heavily, rapidly walking into his room, and all without greeting Helena, his beloved mother. She looks over to his room and catches the door closing softly. She puts the knife down and cleans her hands absent-mindedly with the apron. She glances at the fridge, where there are a plethora of pictures of Henry, as a baby, as a toddler, with her and her husband, with her, and only her, on his birthday, on his first bike, and at the park. Henry's drawings and bills and letters stacked upon each other and the pictures, but Helena can always see her Henry. She walks over to Henry's room and faces the closed door. She listens and hears him pacing, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and she smiles. Helena slowly turns the knob and pushes in, careful not to startle Henry. She stops the door when she notices the letter in Henry's hands. From outside, she can see the pink and cursive framing of the letter. It's pretty, decorated with hearts and flowers and cute smiley stickers. Wrapped around Henry's small fingers is a cute pink ribbon, hanging slackly from his grasp. Helena watches Henry. She watches him finish the letter, only to witness him read it again, and again, and again. He paces the room reading it. He sits down reading it. He stands up reading it. He's enamored with the letter. Helena watches, but he never notices. Interior Henry's bedroom day. Henry rocks back and forth, letter intact in his hands and his eyes straining intently on its content. Henry fingers the edge of the letter and he licks his lips. He brings the letter up to his face and catches a quick whiff, his feet rocking back and forth, back and forth. Helena pushes the door in completely, startling him, his hands now clutching the letter, holding it close to his body. Her smile never wavers and stays stoically on her face. She goes over to his bed and takes a seat. They exchange looks, neither muttering a word. She pats the empty space next to her. Henry goes to sit down almost immediately, the letter wrangled in his hands.
Where'd you get the letter, Henry?
Henry stares off into the space on the floor.
Is it someone from school?
Helena turns her head towards him. He nods.
Is it a girl, Henry?
Helena's smile stretches.
What does it say in the letter?
Mom, don't!
Helena's smile fades. She extends her hand towards him and faces her palm up. Each of her fingers curl into her palm and extends again and again, luring the tempestuous letter from the curl of his fingers. Henry squeezes even more into himself as his mother moves for work to remove the letter.
Can I read it?
Henry whimpers. He isn't looking at Helena, who's staring intently at him, her arms twisting in between under her gaze, prying the delicate paper from Henry.
Give it to me.
He's static. She asks for it again, once, twice, thrice, 4 times, her voice getting heavier and darker. Henry gives in and gives up the letter with trembling hands. His mother straightens her back and moves away from Henry, eyes glaring at him. She can't see his face, but she can hear the pitter-patter of tears falling on his knees. She reads it pensively, and she peers at him. He flinches and retreats into his body.
Do you love her, Henry?
Mouth seemingly glued, Henry can only breathe in response, but this time he looks at her, their eyes never swaying away. She doesn't need to ask him again, and he doesn't know what to say. He grabs her by her shoulders, shocking his mother. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. He opens his mouth wider and wider and wider, but nothing comes out. A whine leaves his throat, a whine that drags on, a whine that streams out from his mouth and down his chin, a whine that struggles to climb out from his throat and out of his stretching gullet. Helena stares at him, and a moment later she grins, a teardrop falling from her eye.
Let's tear this up, Henry.
She folds the letter and gathers Henry into her warm, quiet embrace. She coaxes him down, down, down onto the bed. She lets him curl into her bosom. Together they form a fetus shape on the pristine, perfect sheets. Helena releases Henry and they look up at the ceiling. He's holding one side of the letter and she's holding the other, and they read it together, out loud. She pulls the letter away from him, but he holds it tightly. She pulls harder, but he won't let go. Helena pulls hard one last time, but to no avail. The letter stays stuck where Henry and she were holding it. She pulls at it once more and sees Henry pulling back. Henry, in one quick move, snatches the letter away from his mother and curls into himself, protecting the letter. Henry stays static in his position as he feels the bed moves underneath him. The looming presence of Helena towers over his head. He sneaks a look and sees at his mother, trapping him on his bed. He can hear her mutter words under her breath, but barely. He waits and waits and waits and waits. He waits until his breathing has calmed and Helena is speaking loud enough that he can hear her, reciting the letter.
I like you very much, Henry.
She continues.
I want to be your girlfriend. Do you like me, Henry?
He uncurls himself and faces up at Helena. Henry loosens his hold on the letter and stares at her, tears streaming down his cheeks. Helena's cries of words form into tears and they left her cheek as they drop onto his. Slowly, she reviews the letter that she has taken from his grasp. Helena lowers herself onto him and gives him a kiss on his head, his forehead, and his cheek. She moves to behind him and wraps her arms around him, her hands holding the letter and trapping Henry in her embrace again. Helena tears the letter in half in front of him. He continues to whimper and cry, bringing his hands up to cover his face. Henry watches as the letter disintegrates in Helena's hands and the pieces rain down onto the mattress. He turns over to face Helena and stares at her in awe as his hands come up to hold her face.
I love you, Mommy.
They kiss. Fade to white.